Jerusalem stands as one of the world's most historically significant and contested cities, a place where three major religions converge, and where thousands of years of human civilization have left their mark. This is the story of Jerusalem, from its earliest settlements to the complex metropolis it is today. The history of Jerusalem begins long before the city became famous. Archaeological evidence suggests that the site was first settled around 3000 BCE, though the earliest substantial settlement dates to around 1800 BCE. The city's strategic location on a hilltop in the Judean mountains, with access to water from the Gihon spring, made it an ideal place for human habitation. The name Jerusalem itself likely derives from ancient Semitic roots, possibly meaning foundation of Shalem, referring to a Canaanite deity. In the 2nd millennium BCE, Jerusalem was a small Canaanite city-state, relatively insignificant compared to other major centers of the ancient Near East. The city changed hands multiple times as various powers rose and fell in the region. It wasn't until around 1000 BCE that Jerusalem gained prominence under King David, who, according to biblical and historical accounts, conquered the city from the Jebusites and made it the capital of his united kingdom. David's conquest marked a turning point, transforming Jerusalem from a minor settlement into a center of political and religious power. David's son, Solomon, further elevated Jerusalem's status by constructing the first temple around 960 BCE. This magnificent structure became the spiritual heart of Judaism and one of the ancient world's most important religious buildings. Solomon also expanded the city's walls and infrastructure, making Jerusalem a major urban center. The temple housed the Ark of the Covenant and became the focal point of Jewish religious practice. During this period, Jerusalem flourished as a capital city, attracting merchants, pilgrims, and officials from across the known world. However, Solomon's death marked the beginning of a period of decline and division. The United Kingdom split into the Northern Kingdom of Israel and the Southern Kingdom of Judah, with Jerusalem remaining the capital of Judah. Over the following centuries, Jerusalem experienced periods of prosperity and hardship, influenced by the rise and fall of neighboring empires. The city was repeatedly besieged, conquered, and rebuilt as various powers sought control of this strategically important location. In 586 BCE, the Babylonian Empire, under King Nebuchadnezzar II, conquered Jerusalem after a devastating siege. The first temple was destroyed, and much of the population was exiled to Babylon. This catastrophic event, known as the Babylonian exile, profoundly shaped Jewish identity and religious practice. For nearly 50 years, Jerusalem lay in ruins, and the Jewish people were scattered across the Mesopotamian Empire. Yet this period also saw the development of Jewish religious thought and the compilation of many biblical texts that would define Judaism for centuries to come. The exile ended when the Persian Empire conquered Babylon. The Persian king Cyrus the Great, known for his relatively tolerant policies toward conquered peoples, allowed the Jewish exiles to return to Jerusalem around 538 BCE. The returning Jews, led by figures like Zerubbabel and later Ezra and Nehemiah, rebuilt the city and constructed the Second Temple. This reconstruction was a gradual process, taking decades to complete, but it restored Jerusalem as a center of Jewish religious and cultural life. For the next several centuries, Jerusalem was ruled by various powers, including the Seleucid Empire, following Alexander the Great's conquests. During the Seleucid period, tensions arose between those who embraced Greek culture and those who sought to preserve traditional Jewish practices. These tensions culminated in the Maccabean Revolt around 167 BCE, when Jewish rebels successfully fought for independence and religious freedom. The Maccabees rededicated the Second Temple, an event commemorated in the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. The independent Jewish kingdom established by the Maccabees lasted about a century before Jerusalem fell under Roman control in 63 BCE. The Roman general Pompey conquered the city, and Jerusalem became part of the Roman Empire. Under Roman rule, Jerusalem remained an important religious center, but political power was limited. The Romans appointed local rulers, including the famous King Herod, who undertook massive building projects in the city. Herod expanded and beautified the Second Temple, making it one of the most magnificent structures of the ancient world. The 1st century CE was a period of great tension in Jerusalem. Jewish resistance to Roman rule grew, leading to increased conflict and Roman repression. In 66 CE, a major Jewish revolt against Rome erupted. The Romans, under the command of General Titus, besieged Jerusalem in 70 CE. After months of fighting and starvation within the city, the Romans breached the walls and destroyed the Second Temple. This catastrophic event, known as the Siege of Jerusalem, marked the end of the Second Temple period and fundamentally transformed Jewish civilization. Without the temple, Jewish religious practice shifted from temple sacrifice to prayer and study, changes that would define Judaism for the next 2,000 years. Following the destruction of the temple, Jerusalem's importance in Jewish life continued, but the city itself was largely rebuilt as a Roman city. The Romans renamed it Aelia Capitolina and rebuilt it according to Roman urban planning principles. Jews were allowed to return and live in the city, but they faced restrictions and heavy taxation. A second major Jewish revolt, the Bar Kokhba revolt from 132 to 135 CE, resulted in another devastating Roman victory and further restrictions on Jewish presence in Jerusalem. The religious landscape of Jerusalem changed dramatically in the 4th century CE with the rise of Christianity. The Roman Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity and made it the empire's official religion. Constantine's mother, Helena, visited Jerusalem and identified sites associated with Jesus' life and death. Constantine commissioned the construction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, built over the site believed to be Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. This church became one of Christianity's holiest sites and transformed Jerusalem into a major pilgrimage destination for Christians. In 638 CE, Jerusalem was conquered by the Muslim Umayyad Caliphate under Caliph Umar. The conquest was relatively peaceful, and Umar reportedly made a covenant protecting Christian holy sites. Under Muslim rule, Jerusalem became known as Al-Quds, meaning the Holy, and gained tremendous significance in Islam. The Dome of the Rock, one of Islam's most important shrines, was built on the Temple Mount in 691 CE, marking the spot from which Muslims believe the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. The Al-Aqsa Mosque was also constructed nearby, making the Temple Mount a sacred site for Muslims as well. For the next several centuries, Jerusalem was ruled by various Muslim dynasties, including the Abbasids, Fatimids, and Seljuks. The city remained a major pilgrimage destination for Muslims, Christians, and Jews, though the balance of power and religious freedom shifted depending on the ruling dynasty. In 1099, during the First Crusade, Christian crusaders from Europe conquered Jerusalem and established a Crusader kingdom. The Crusaders built churches and fortifications, but also committed massacres against the Muslim and Jewish populations. The Crusader period lasted less than a century before Muslim forces, led by the famous General Saladin, reconquered the city in 1187. Under Saladin and subsequent Muslim rulers, Jerusalem entered a period of relative stability. The city remained important to all three Abrahamic religions, and while tensions existed, a degree of coexistence was maintained. In 1517, the Ottoman Empire conquered Jerusalem and incorporated it into their vast domain. The Ottomans ruled Jerusalem for 4 centuries, during which the city's walls were rebuilt and the basic urban structure that exists today was largely established. The Ottoman period saw the development of distinct quarters within the Old City, including the Muslim, Christian, Jewish, and Armenian quarters, each with its own character and community. The 19th century brought significant changes to Jerusalem. European powers, particularly Britain and France, increased their influence in the Ottoman Empire. Christian missionary activity increased, and new churches and institutions were built. Jewish immigration to Jerusalem also increased during this period, driven by both religious motivations and growing anti-Semitism in Europe. The Jewish population, which had been small for centuries, began to grow substantially. New neighborhoods were built outside the old city walls, expanding Jerusalem beyond its medieval boundaries. The 20th century witnessed the most dramatic transformations in Jerusalem's modern history. Following World War I and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, Jerusalem came under British mandate as part of the League of Nations arrangement. During the British Mandate period from 1920 to 1948, tensions between Jewish and Arab communities intensified. Jewish immigration accelerated, and competing national aspirations for the land created increasing conflict. The British attempted to maintain order but faced growing violence from both communities. In 1948, the State of Israel was established, and Jerusalem became a divided city. The western part of Jerusalem fell under Israeli control, while the eastern part, including the Old City, came under Jordanian control. This division lasted until 1967, when Israel won the Six-Day War and captured East Jerusalem and the West Bank. Israel subsequently annexed East Jerusalem, though this annexation is not recognized by the international community. The reunification of Jerusalem under Israeli control was celebrated by Israelis, but deeply resented by Palestinians and the Arab world. Since 1967, Jerusalem has remained a deeply contested city. It serves as Israel's capital, but Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestinian state. The city is home to Israeli settlements in the West Bank, Palestinian neighborhoods, and some of the world's holiest sites for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has made Jerusalem a focal point of international diplomacy and a symbol of the broader Middle Eastern conflict. Today, Jerusalem is a city of profound contradictions. It is a modern metropolis with a population of over 900,000 people, yet it remains deeply rooted in ancient history. It is a place of extraordinary religious significance, where pilgrims from around the world come to visit sites sacred to their faiths. It is also a city marked by political division, where Israelis and Palestinians live in close proximity, but often in separate communities. The Western Wall, the holiest site in Judaism, stands adjacent to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of Islam's most important shrines. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre draws Christian pilgrims from every corner of the globe. The history of Jerusalem is ultimately a history of human civilization itself. It is a story of conquest and coexistence, of destruction and rebuilding, of religious devotion and political conflict. For 3,000 years, Jerusalem has been a place where different peoples, religions, and cultures have intersected, sometimes peacefully and sometimes violently. Understanding Jerusalem's history is essential to understanding not only the Middle East, but also the broader patterns of human history. As Jerusalem continues to evolve in the 21st century, it remains a city where the past is never far from the present, where ancient stones still speak to modern conflicts, and where the hopes and struggles of humanity are written into every street and building.